Honestly, it felt a little bit like I was leaving home, like I was running away from home.
Okay.
But I wasn't going by myself. I was going with my friends. If you don't have a budget and you kind of go out with thinking that you're going to conquer the world with no money, you need to think again. Managing what's in front of you and not going underwater, because it's so hard to come back from that. And I think that's why people sometimes go bankrupt. I think that's why sometimes people borrow money from family or friends, which never works out well. You don't make a mistake and lay in bed for a week. Answers don't come that way. Answers come by looking it straight in the eye, figuring out what went wrong, your part in it, owning it, understanding it, and then tomorrow's a new day. My friends were way more confident than me, but when I left them, I felt like I was way more confident in my life at that point, right? Because I had those friends.
Hey, Sherry, welcome to Bella Let's Talk. I welcome you today for our special guest, a wise man, and he has a lot to share. And I can't wait for him to present himself. Hello, John.
Thanks for having me, Bella. I've never been called a wise man before. This is already working out well for me.
Oh, really? Welcome to Bella Let's Talk.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you. John, how did you start in your own life? How did you start?
Like where I grew up?
Yes.
Right from the beginning. Hamilton, Ontario. So
Okay.
40 miles away from here, 40, 50 miles away, in a kind of a working class neighborhood, 4 kids, in a wartime homes. I drive by it once in a while because my parents still live in Hamilton, and I drove by that house I grew up in. And in your head, as a kid, it was so much bigger. Everything was bigger, like 6 of us lived there. And you go by now, and it's like about as big as this space it feels like, you know what I mean? So your perception changes over the years and that, but that's where I grew up, and it was kind of working class, tough neighborhood. I went to high school there, and then I left and I went out to Alberta to go to school. Actually, I was going to work with kids, and there was a good social work program there at the time, and friends of mine moved there as well. So I thought this is a good time to move. The mountains was a big draw. I just grew up in Hamilton. I knew nothing else, right?
Yes,
So I went to another province altogether, and I had expectations, but they were blown away once I got there because of the opportunities that were there right in front of me, just like that.
Wow. Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's great. And then at that move, I think you were at the age of 17, maybe?
So no, I was 19,
19.
like just about to turn 19.
Okay.
And then I moved out to the West Coast to Victoria, Vancouver Island, because a friend of mine that I grew up in Hamilton with, he was a fisherman and he broke his leg. His deckhand broke his leg, and he needed a deckhand, and asked me if I would be prepared to come out there and work on this fishing boat. And I had no experience, but I went and did that. So again, it was just an excellent experience that you take a whole bunch from, right? Short-lived, it was one season, and then I was drawn back to Toronto.
Oh, okay.
Right, and so I've been back here since 1981.
Perfect. But at that time when you are focused to go to school,
Yes.
right? Why did you decide to travel all the way? I know you said it's opportunity, but how did you manage to keep focus, to go for what you went there for and finish what you went there for?
Honestly, it felt a little bit like I was leaving home, like I was running away from home.
Okay.
But I wasn't going by myself. I was going with my friends.
Okay.
And that felt like, okay, I can do that. They're like, we're all going to crutch each other and have a support network, right? And then make connections, and then so it was a gutsy thing to do.
Okay.
I could have just did the same thing in Hamilton or Toronto, but at the time it just seemed like the excellent opportunity, so I ran with it. Yeah.
Yeah. And was it challenging in the beginning?
Totally challenging, right? Like you don't have money, right? And there's work everywhere if you're prepared to do stuff that you don't really want to do. But if you do it, you make money, you can buy things and you can pay for things and so forth. So if you don't have a budget and you kind of go out with thinking that you're going to conquer the world with no money, well, you need to think again. So there was an amount of planning, even though we were only 18 years old, there was an amount of planning. One of the guys I went with, his brother lived out there. And so that was a connection. So we had connection. And then we all ended up getting jobs. Those 2 guys ended up staying out there. They live in Victoria, BC. And they stayed. And then I came back for different opportunities.
Yes. For me, I think in your time was better because I feel like your friendship was to help one another to build something. But in our generation now, I feel like you run away from friends because you're scared that they're gonna shift your focus.
Yeah, well, your friends have a huge influence on you, right? So it's interesting. You're like from a very early age, you're in a classroom setting, say, and you are drawn to somebody,
Okay.
or maybe many people, and maybe it's the bullies in the room, maybe it's the quiet people in the room, maybe it's the person that stands out for whatever reason, music or otherwise, and then you become friends. That you find those things in common. That's kind of like a building block. It's sort of like you want this job. Well, you can't start at that job without doing all this stuff ahead of time, right? So it's the same thing. You just learn as you go, and you pick up contacts, and you pick up confidence, and that's kind of what we ran with. Like my friends were way more confident than me, but when I left them, I felt like I was way more confident in my life at that point, right? Because I had those friends, and they were good. We were kids, right? Still, so you go offside now and again, but we weren't. Like none of us had records or anything like that. We just, we were law-abiding kind of punks, right? But at that point in your life, your brain is going every direction possible,
Yes.
right? And you want opportunities, but they don't come easy. And if you don't sort of bite into one, then you can't have great expectations.
So I love what you just shared, how like at a certain age, our mind is everywhere. We are trying to figure like, what do we want to do? Where do we want to go? What am I interested into? Can you help us a little bit understand how do you pull your focus in something and for sure this one's going to be great. It's a good opportunity.
That's a really good question. I don't even know really how to answer that. I think, as a young kid, you're really impressionable. Okay. So if somebody that you emulate, you look up to, does something, even if it's not something you thought you were interested in, they do it, you might want to do that. And then you might get interested in it. So it opens up the mind, and and those opportunities become available. Like for me, it was a whole bunch of things as a young person. But when I knew I wanted to go and come back to Toronto to work with kids, I wasn't going to make a lot of money. But I knew I was going to be able to roll up my sleeves, play ball hockey with them, go out in the community, learn life skills, help them get their driver's license, whatever, right? It was like, I can do that, as opposed to, say, working in a factory that would be hard for me to do. Right. I'm not saying, it might be for somebody else. That might be the excellent opportunity. Go to work 9 to 5, go home, and it's over. I ended up working shifts and then working with some pretty tough kids in a crisis unit, and seeing kids that were, maybe didn't have the same kind of opportunities. Maybe they had better opportunities than I did, but they had some mental health issues. And so the mental health issues would hold them back from pretty much everything that they wanted to do in their lives, because that's sort of number one. You got to deal with your mental health, and you get on with, okay, now I want to be an astronaut. How am I going to do that?
Wow. So would you say it's good to have somebody who is like a mentor in life?
Yeah. So like a big brother for kids that don't have like a father. So I think those programs are pretty awesome. And they're right on the money too. They match you and it's supervised, and there's accountability, and it's awkward too at the beginning, because a kid all of a sudden now he's got a big brother, or called a big brother. He's not my brother. What does this mean? And all that. But a big brother, if you're part of a club, you're on a hockey team, baseball, a soccer team.
Yes.
There are a lot of cheap sports. There's a lot of expensive sports. If you're raised and your parents have a lot of money, you're probably playing all the sports that you want and have all the equipment. If you're a single parent, your mother is the only breadwinner, and you're living in a 2-bedroom apartment, she's not going to be able to buy all that for you. There are other priorities, right? So there are also other sports that kids can play. So sports bring kids together.
Okay.
And connections. And then they know them forever.
Wow. So how long did you work with kids?
I worked frontline in a place called Youth Adult Treatment Centers in a group home. And I kind of worked my way. I was about 3.5, 4 years, and I went from the frontline to the house head. And then they had a crisis unit. It was called the Youth Adult Acute Support Unit, which is still in business today, of taking care of some of the toughest kids, with a lot of mental health issues that are maybe a danger to themselves or others, and they need a timeout. So they're put on a form for a couple weeks or a month, like 2 weeks or 30 whatever days, by a psychiatrist, and seen by nurses and doctors and so forth. These are kids that are really got some work to do before they have the opportunities that you and I are talking about.
Okay.
But it's hard. I think if you have a mental health issue, it's maybe hard trusting somebody. So, so maybe it's hard to have a best friend and a support system. And that's trusting a staff or an experience or the medication or a loving family. There's all kinds of things that go into that recipe.
Wow. But even hearing you now, even the way you talk about it, it seemed like you didn't only take this opportunity to work with kids because of money, but it's like something you had passion for as well.
Totally.
Yeah. So how would you put it together, weight this, somebody, I'm finishing high school. Do I go for opportunity that has money where I know I'm going to get money, or more something I'm going to have more passion for? I have passion for it. How do you weight?
Hold that thought, and you may have to ask me again. I have a short-term memory, but let me just say this: like it's when you're that age and your head is going every which way, and it's hard. Like sometimes it's good to take a gap year,
Okay.
or a gap month,
Okay.
or just step back and go. I'm not going to make any decisions until I figure this out, and then search it. These days, there's the internet. My days, there was the library. You didn't go to the library to figure your life out then, right? Or you didn't have. You just didn't. You just kind of did it. You got your nose dirty, and you got up and you did it again until you got it right. But I think with kids, there's opportunities there. You've got to get your nose dirty a little bit by doing a little bit of hard work. So the rest of that question was, how do I weigh
What opportunity to take? Where there's money or something you have passion
Thank
for?
you. So to bring it back to that, because to me it is kind of connected. I'm a little bit impulsive sometimes, and I make decisions, and after I go, why did I make that decision? Like, why didn't I think about that for 15 or 20 minutes or an hour or a day or whatever? So I think that if it's a passion, I would definitely go for that first, right? For me, over the money. Like I knew going into social work, there's no money there unless you have a master's degree plus 10 years of experience. And even then, it's not a ton of money. You got to be a doctor of some kind, right? It's not a business that people go into to make a lot of money. That people do go into that business to learn, and a lot of them would maybe deny us, but to learn a little bit about themselves or more about themselves, because it's a very provocative business, right? A lot of stuff comes up that never happened in your life. You read about it maybe in a book, but when it's happening right in front of your face, it's totally different, right? So I think some people go into that business to learn more about themselves, and I think that's a great thing.
Yes.
Right? And then you sort of run with that. You're working with kids and you're telling them, yeah, I'm not perfect. I struggle a little bit too or whatever, and help them. And then they bond to that recipe.
So it means at that moment you become their mentor at the...
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty good. So how did you get to this place now, working with kids? Maybe you said 5 years. How did you come up with an idea? Let me now start my own business.
Well, like I said, so I was in the residential treatment. I worked there for about 3.5, 4 years, whatever. And then I worked in a lock setting, the support unit, the acute support unit, and that was shifts. Right, so shifts, and it was intense, and I did that for about 1.5 or 2 years, right? So let's say that was about 5 years there. After that, I realized I don't want to work shifts. What other opportunities do I have? So, believe it or not, through hockey, just playing hockey with some guys I'd never met before in my life, but I was invited out to play, and I play hockey all my life. And I'm out, and I met people there. And to this day, so that was more than 40 years ago, those people are still my friends, a lot of them. Wow. So anyway, this one guy, he was a musician, but he was an excellent carpenter. And he read, and he could make things. He could make kind of anything, but he was slow, and he was really thoughtful and everything else. Anyway, he kind of took me under his wing, and we started doing contracting work, like building bathrooms with almost no experience. Now, at that point, I had bought a house and I renovated it myself. And, it's a miracle it stood up after that, because it was the first crack at it. But again, it's like anything. You work at it and you get better. What I realized almost right away was I kind of like this way better than what I was doing, the shift work. And, I think I've got my fill of helping people that way. Now, I think I'm going to try to help myself with a career change that I think just fits my idea, I guess. Yeah. So, yeah. And so I loved it right away. I loved getting dirty. I didn't like slivers and all that kind of stuff. But, I liked being in front of people. I like satisfying people. And that's what happens when you work for people, right? In any business.
Yeah.
But I was doing something more personal in that I was maybe building their bathroom or their kitchen or whatever. You work up to it. I had lots of people in that business that helped me along the way. There's lots of accountability. You don't get paid unless it's done right. All that stuff. And so, yeah, again, building blocks.
Wow. And I love how you said you met this man through playing a game, as you were telling us earlier, encouraging us to actually go do those activities. That's how we meet people. I know for sure you're grateful to meet somebody like that. But in our generation now, do you think where is the best place to meet somebody who can help? Yeah.
Well, good. That's a good question too. It's not a bar.
Yeah.
It's not it's not in a negative vibe place. It's in a healthy place. It's a community center. Okay. It's a game. It's somehow through sports. It's a school activity. It's maybe being part of a club at school. Like, there's a million things out there. People have to get creative and find out what it is that they maybe not are going to do for the rest of their life, but something I wouldn't mind doing right now and connect to it.
How long did you do your own business?
I just retired 2 years ago, and it was almost 25 years. Yeah. Yeah, and it was good. And I had lots of guys along the way that stayed with me. They were like almost like marriages, right? So they start off with an amount of skills. They got a whole bunch more skills along the way. And then we all learned to work together and kind of stayed together. Like there was not a lot of comings and goings, right? So that's an area I kind of highly recommend for young people these days is get involved in the trades. Find out which one's interesting to you. And if none, then find something else. But there are 8 or 10 trades out there, easily 8 or 10, and most of them you can get free training. Like universities, colleges, they're begging to feed kids this information to get them into that business and into the business of the trades. It's very lucrative. So there's some money to be made there. There's some skills to be made there. There's some people to meet there. There's some. The biggest thing is it's the confidence that you get when you don't worry about making rent or pleasing somebody or and I know those two don't connect, but they do for me.
Yeah, I agree. As a general contractor, what was your first mistake when you started?
Oh, I dropped the toilet.
Oh.
Yeah, that was expensive.
Yeah.
What was my first mistake? Like I broke things. I broke almost every day. I was doing something wrong until I got it right. And even right to the end, you just make mistakes, right? You just have to get it right. You just fix it.
I feel like the generation before, your head was straight. Like you can make mistake. The next day you wake up, I'm moving forward. I'm gonna teach myself something new. I'm gonna look another way around it, But with us, like owning that business, it's a big thing as a general contractor. But now it's like if I lose a contract, I'm just gonna be depressed for the rest of my life and go down. Like I'm done. I'm not approaching again.
Yeah.
So can you help us a little bit? Like how do you guys approach?
I lost a lot of sleep at the beginning, and because you're worried all the time. But no, I think you gotta own it.
Okay.
Suck it up, understand it, and then put it aside and say, next time I'm gonna learn from that. But the reality is life goes on. You don't make a mistake and lay in bed for a week. Answers don't come that way. Answers come by looking it straight in the eye, figuring out what went wrong, your part in it, owning it, understanding it, and then tomorrow's a new day and get out. And that's really the bottom line is every day is a brand new day, right? It doesn't mean it's a good day to screw up today because tomorrow's a brand new day. It just means, if something didn't go as well as I wanted it to today, it doesn't matter. Tomorrow's a brand new day, and I hope it does.
Yes. Because now we see more about mental health. It's something that everyone is challenged with. Was it easier in your days maybe to create a business than now?
So anybody can do it, right? Is it harder? It's pretty competitive because, I kind of joke about it sometimes when I'm telling people, like, when I started about 25 years ago, so did Home Depot. And Home Depot, American-owned company, but they came right into our face. There's stores everywhere, and their slogan was, you can do it, and we can help. And so people started to do it, and they started to screw it up. And then they started hiring people like me to come and fix it. Oh. And that's a reality because they had regular jobs, but they really wanted to try this, say, backsplash or install a dishwasher or something. And power to you. I mean, it's a labor of love. You own something, you want to do it yourself. But you quickly realize that we didn't like go through all that pain, you know, and you know, to do that kind of job. Like you want perfect, it
Yes.
requires some experience, right? And how you get the experience is by doing it and making some mistakes and doing it better the next time.
Wow.
So
Yeah, and then I know you did say that you even taught yourself how to build certain things. It's funny how you started having passion for the kids, and now you go into having passion to work with maybe building something like a kitchen. You said.
you know what? It was the whole thing is sort of like being like, you know, dogs. They just want to please you all the time. Well, my customers, I wanted them to be happy at the end, and I wanted them
Yes.
to tell somebody else. And then just like in your business,
Yeah.
you know, you want me, maybe if I know somebody that can talk to you and help some of your listeners with some of the things maybe they struggle with, then absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So then, how did you get to know who to bring into your business? How do you choose those people?
That's you know, again, for me, it was word of mouth, but it was also through the game. I met everybody that's ever worked with me came through the game of hockey. Wow. Yeah. And, you know, I have a friend, and I've done a ton of work for him. He's in the music business. And I remember going to his house and doing a ton of, I did the kitchen, all kinds of stuff. I was there for months with my career and everything. And he had 2 little kids, and I was really, you know, I was playing with the kids all the time. And they wanted to know, what are you doing? You know, all that kind of stuff. One of those kids is a general contractor today, has his own business, bigger business than I ever had.
Wow.
And he's got staff, and he's licensed and all that. And he was just this little kid, I'm telling you, 6 years old. He started hammering things like most kids do. And then by the time he was a teenager, he was getting into it a little bit more. He started building little things out of hockey sticks and stuff. So it's interesting how we all get started with something. You find out what works for you, right?
What's more comfortable to you? Yeah, to you. Oh, that's really a good story. Like you inspired somebody to become something. Who inspired you?
Since the 80s, like, and it's a great, every Monday morning, all these guys that are musicians mostly, or people that work shift works and they can make it or whatever, we go there. And that's how I made almost all of my connections, right? So when I met this one guy and he asked me if I would help him with something up north at a cottage, I was thinking, yeah, I can do that. Zero experience, no tools or anything like that. I quickly realized he kind of knows what he's doing. And that kind of like, I was thinking, this is good. This is like reading a good book. I'm going to remember some of it. So I started paying attention and emulating what he was doing. And then I became his peer, right? I became his equal and his peer because I worked really, really hard to learn those skills. And that's what it takes. Nothing happens overnight. Here's the thing. I think if you're a young person, you're not sure what you want to do, get a part-time job somewhere, anywhere. That's the beginning. Get a job anywhere, making any amount of money. Start earning some money, because before you know it, 50 years, you're going to retire and you're going to be sucking money back from the government. Put it in there because that's your money that's going into your pocket then. But more than that, you're going to get opportunities. You're going to meet kids there. You're going to meet somebody. You might meet the person that you end up marrying. Who knows? But that's how it begins. And guess what? You're not going to do that job for the rest of your life. You're going to do that job for 6 months or 1 month or 6 years or whatever, and then you're going to go up the ladder, hopefully up the ladder, right? And then on to other things. And along the way, you're going to meet other people that are going to say, why are you doing that? Why don't you come do this? And that's how it works. It's sort of like not being a shut-in. I think the biggest thing in the morning, get up, forget about dwelling on yesterday, get a shower, get something to eat, and get out the door.
Wow.
And that's how you start the day. Get out the door.
And I love how you shared about money, because I think that's something I actually want to ask. You were sharing with me how you drove a truck for the longest, and now you're driving a Mini.
Yes.
What made you not buy like a big car, like let's say a Lamborghini or a G-Wagon, those big cars, luxury? What made you not?
Okay, first of all, Lamborghinis are a couple $100,000. And I was a general contractor, not a hedge funder. No, so for me, you know, in that business, so again, so you have to, like whatever it is you choose in your life, you have a set of tools. And mine happened to be a truck to carry materials in, and my tools and everything else. And I did all those years, and then I retired a couple of years ago, and then every time I go, I look at it, and I think I have to go to a wedding in that, or whatever, or I'm traveling to whatever, to Hamilton and that, and it's just too big, and it's just me, and I thought, you know what? I want to make a smaller footprint, and this is how I'm going to do it. So So I got this little dinky car that I could fit into the back of the truck.
Wow. But recently, I think they said almost like 70% or 77% of now people are using their credit cards, right? Living their own life. And that's where, like, did you put yourself in a discipline to say, I don't need an extra car, a good car just driving around, right? But you think of getting a car that you're going to pull your materials in, and you're saving money because you're using this car for your business at the same time moving you around.
Course.
How do you have that discipline or to know money, this is how I'm going to spend my money?
You know what? I can't speak for everybody, but my whole life, I've never lived beyond my means.
Wow.
And it's a little bit of discipline. I mean, it's sexy to get to buy something that's, and then have to pay for it after. Like, you might have to get burnt at the beginning to understand it. But here's my advice to young people.
Yes.
If you don't have a credit card, apply and get a credit card. Buy something small, that adds up to whatever your budget of $50, and then pay it in full, not the $10 minimum. Whatever your credit card is at the end of the month at your bill time, you pay it in full, and guess what? You just started your new credit rating, and you know what? You need a credit rating these days, and it starts with buying things like that. Dinky little things that don't cost a whole lot of money, and it doesn't burn you with your budget, and you can afford to pay it right back. Because I think sometimes people use a credit card and they think the deal's done. I got what I wanted, but now you got to pay it back, right? So it's easy to go underwater, with money. So I didn't live beyond my means. I mean, you work at a job and it pays you the minimum wage or $25 an hour or whatever. You got to do the math. What can you afford? What can you afford to eat? What can you afford to drive? Can you afford the insurance? Because don't drive a car without the insurance. And then you ask yourself, why would I drive? Well, these days I wouldn't drive unless I needed a vehicle. I really wouldn't, because Toronto, you can get around on foot or bike.
Yes.
It's all connected. But the transit, it's always a lot hard, for them to get it done sometimes, but it's available and it's there. It's the way to go. It's cheap, but to own a car, it's not cheap. So you got to think about it those ways. Budgeting is huge. I have zero economics background, but budgeting is a simple thing. Just think about what you do in your life and write it down, and then put it in a category and think about how much it costs you. And your birthdays, you got to wish everybody happy birthday, Merry Christmas. You want to take a vacation, whatever. You build up to those things when you can afford them. But in the meantime, you're managing what's in front of you and not going underwater, because it's so hard to come back from that. And I think that's why people sometimes go bankrupt. I think that's why sometimes people borrow money from family or friends, which never works out well. So the idea is be responsible, because that's one thing your whole life you got to do. You got to suck that one up.
Yeah, no, wow, I'm shocked because I've seen people who use even their business in the way to make more money.
Yes,
but it's good. But some days too, it's like, why are you putting yourself into this place where it's like you're gonna borrow one day, you're gonna be in a place where you are in need. So for you now that you are retired, what's your new plan? How are you managing? You said to invest some money in RSP. So
yes, of course. Yeah, you got to start putting money right away. So I read this book. This is great for your listeners if they could find this book, The Wealthy Barber. And the story is about this guy who gets his haircut, and it's many people go to get their haircut, and this barber gives people advice, and he mostly is giving people money advice. His advice was the 20% rule. So whatever money you make, ever, like from the time you get a job, if you can be disciplined, and this is hard. I mean, it's easier when you're established and you have a full-time job, 40 hours, and you get a regular pay. At the beginning, you have a part-time job. It's harder to do this. 20% solution. So whatever you make $20 or you make $100, 20% is $20, right? Okay. $20 when you get paid on Friday, you get your $100. You take 20 of that and you put it over here, and that's just for you. That's your money that you invest. Okay. And so that goes into a separate bank account, and you never touch it if you don't have to. And you watch that sucker grow because each year it grows and it accrues interest. And, by the time anytime you really, really, really might need it, when it's a significant amount of money, because you started off with, say, $500, and all of a sudden you got $50,000, and it's doable, trust me. If you have that kind of discipline to put some money away, and it's called paying yourself. You're just you're paying yourself. You got all this other stuff. You got to do it. And you're not being greedy, but you're saying, I'm going to take that 20, I'm going to put it over here. That's for later. That's for me later when I
Later.
don't have any money,
Yes.
right? Or don't have a job or whatever, if I really need it,
Mm-hmm.
or when I retire. So then you watch things go up. Now, for me, I was in the business of building homes, right? So
Yes.
so I would sold a couple of houses and made some money doing it that way, right? So I made some investments doing that. But even now, I wasn't aggressive trying to make the money. I lived in these houses and loved it. But then it was just time to go. And I went from a house to a very small space now. And I want to leave a smaller footprint. I did my work. I've made my contributions. I'm reaping the rewards, and I'm just starting to settle into it, and I love it. I have lots of friends. And, you know,
Yeah.
you don't throw friends away, right?
Yes.
They're there.
Yeah.
Lots of friends.
Keep them, yeah.
So
That's really good. I think I'm going to ask you to mentor me after this.
absolutely.
Yes.